Yes, I asked for a review by FIFA.
Donald Trump has confirmed that he intervened to overturn the red card given to this star player on Team USA over this tackle by calling this man the president of FIFA, leading to accusations that Trump is interfering in the World Cup. Is he? We'll discuss on this episode of Newscast. Hello, it's Adam back in the Newscast studio. And obviously the big football story on Monday morning was England's sensational victory against Mexico, which I think we will be talking about for decades to come. But by Monday afternoon, when we're recording this episode of Newscast at about 5 p.m, the big football story is the accusations of Donald Trump interfering over that red card for Team USA's star striker, which he asked the FIFA president Gianni Infantino to overturn. And then FIFA did suspend the red card. So that means he will be able to play in Team USA's crucial match against Belgium, which is happening on Monday night. So there's lots to unpick here. And to help us out, we're joined from Washington, as always, by Caitríona Perry. Hi, Caitríona.
Hello, Adam. Another quiet day here.
Well, yes, and I'll give you my review of my recent trip to Washington, D.C. shortly. And also on the line, I think making his first ever appearance on Newscast is Dale Johnson, who is the football issues correspondent at the BBC. Hello, Dale.
Hi there. Yes, it is. It's my debut, as they say in the football world.
I was thinking, should I say that? But then I thought it would sound much more convincing from you than it will from me. Anyway, so, right, Dale, give us the backstory then. Just take us back to the actual incident that triggered all of this.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we go back to the start, how long have we got, really? It's a crazy
podcast
situation.
Yeah,
it's a crazy situation, really. You have the situation where Folarin Balogun, the best player for the United States, their leading goal scorer, who scored 3 goals in the tournament, he goes in to a challenge with a Bosnia player and catches the Bosnia player on the ankle in quite a nasty type of way. And this decision is sent to the video assistant referee to review it. The referee is then sent to the monitor to look at it, and he decides that it should be a red card. Now, with a red card, what normally happens is, what always happens, let's be honest, is that it's an automatic 1-game suspension, and that player will miss the next game for the team, which in this case, for the United States, will be the match against Belgium on Monday. Now, the twist to this came yesterday when, totally unexpectedly, completely out of the blue, FIFA announced that Balogun would not serve a ban. It would be suspended on probation, essentially, for the period of 1 year, and he would be able to play in this game against Belgium for the host country.
And Caitríona, when did it start to emerge that Donald Trump may have been involved in this?
Over the weekend, really, and then President Trump himself confirmed it in lengthy remarks in the Oval Office this morning, because it started as kind of speculative reporting in various outlets over the weekend, and it sort of seemed, well, that surely can't be happening. That level of, putting your hands in pies that maybe they don't belong in. And then the president saying, yeah, I called Gianni Infantino about this. I told him how unfair it was. Then he riffed on, how he thought it wasn't a foul to start with, saying, and I'm very good at these things. I know these things. And then by the end of those remarks, he was at a place where he was saying, in fact, suggesting the whole thing could have been rigged.
And this is how that sounded.
He didn't do anything wrong, and he's our best player or one of our best players. A very vital player. And he gave him a red card. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't think it meant much. Then I started hearing that means he can't play in the next game, at least in the next game. I said, boy, that's a big, if it happened to another player, it would have been unfair. But when they take your best player, or just about, they have some great players, and they say you can't play, that's very unfair. That's, it's one thing to penalize somebody for the game, but how do you penalize them for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. So, yes, I asked for a review by FIFA. I spoke to a man who's highly respected, and by the way, whose level of respect has gone up tenfold
Donald Trump, like lots of Americans, learning in real time how football works or how soccer works. Dale, I mean, Donald Trump referred to this review process in FIFA, and it's true to say they do have a process for reviewing things like this. They just tend not to use that process very much, and the outcome doesn't often go this way in such a high-profile way.
Well, it certainly doesn't at a tournament like the World Cup. The FIFA disciplinary code has a list of sanctions depending on what a player has done. Now, in this case, it was a serious foul play red card, and the sanction guideline there says this is a suspension of at least 2 matches. So Balogun should have missed this game against Belgium and one more. Now, buried away in the actual FIFA disciplinary code, clause 27, and you get this with sporting bodies generally, there's a clause which basically gives them the right to change things as they want. It says that they can suspend any disciplinary measure if they so wish for any reason, and this is what they've chose to activate in this case. But it does feel as though it has been chosen for a specific case, which has left a pretty bad taste in the mouth of the general football fan who's been watching on this World Cup and all the controversies there's been in the lead up to it, and that's what we're seeing right now.
And it's left a particularly bad taste in the boss of the Belgian team.
Well, not just the boss of the Belgian team. The boss of the Belgian team said that this is this April Fool's Day. And if I just read a couple of snippets from the Belgian FA statement they released this afternoon, it was a very strong statement. They basically have said that they wrote to FIFA asking for the written reasons why this decision was taken. FIFA responded and says, well, this email constitutes an appeal, but you can't appeal unless you have the written reasons. So Belgium are basically saying FIFA have made their appeal inadmissible without making an appeal, which is just incredible, really. But yeah, like I say, I was going to say what Belgium said. They just said that they're going to continue to fight in the coming hours, days, and months in defence of the fundamental principles of ethics, fair competition, and the interests of football as a whole. So I think if FIFA thought that this was going to just happen and carry on, and the USA-Belgium game would happen and everyone would forget about it, I think that's unlikely to be the case. UEFA have got involved as well. The Parliament in the UK has got involved because of João Quança's red card against Mexico. It's just an incredible situation. It's unprecedented in tournament football in a situation like this for a player not to serve at least a one-game suspension.
And that was a reference to this letter that's been sent by the Labour MP Noah Law to FIFA, where he says, maybe that you should review João Quança's red card in the Mexico match on Sunday night. So it's now requests coming in from all over the place to do this similar sort of thing. Caitríona, it's interesting listening to that Donald Trump clip there, because it's a reminder that he and Gianni Infantino, and he in this World Cup, in fact, have quite a close connection.
Indeed they do. I mean, lots of praise heaped by Donald Trump on Gianni Infantino this morning and for the past several years. I mean, we see Infantino with Trump at many events. He's been in the Oval Office lots. The World Cup trophy itself was sitting there for quite a while. And interestingly, in the statement that we had from FIFA as well today from Gianni Infantino, he said, yes, I regularly discuss matters related to the FIFA World Cup with the president, and I did receive a call from President Trump about this. So both of them speaking to this really close relationship. But much of the sort of talking points here in the US today are, does Donald Trump decide that rules don't apply to him, whether that's the rules-based world order and all the geopolitical stuff that we often are talking about on this podcast, and does it go as far as soccer or football matters as well here in the World Cup? And President Trump's so proud, as he says frequently, that the US is one of the co-hosts of this World Cup, and lauding again today that they are the only ones left in the competition of the 3 hosts.
And Dale, you can just see why this opens up a whole can of worms, because I'm now seeing reports that France are going to ask for similar treatment for one of their players.
Well, yes. I mean, Thomas Tuchel actually referred to Michael Olise, who is the French player that you mentioned, who got a yellow card, which really should not have been a yellow card. Thomas Tuchel said, so what about Declan Rice's yellow card in the game against Mexico? Can I ask that to get changed? Can Michael Olise get his yellow card to get changed? But this applies to every single card that happens. Now FIFA has created a precedent which never existed before, whereby people can question the disciplinary measures that their team has faced and their players have faced. Then why can't this come up again time and time again? And people will quite rightly ask questions. Now, I think one of the fascinating things about this is, at no stage has FIFA given any actual justification or reasoning for why Balogun will not be banned. Yes, it's mentioned this Article 27 that I referenced, but it's not said the actual reason why he will not be banned, and that's just left a real vacuum of understanding. And you can totally see why we're in this situation where people are making assumptions about what's happened in this current situation.
And Caitríona, you referred to Gianni Infantino's statement, and actually he's posted quite a lengthy statement on social media, basically saying that he's following the rules and it's fine for people to give him a ring because the ring from the head of state or head of government isn't what decides the process.
Yeah, he says that in that statement. I regularly get calls, not just from President Trump, from many other heads of state. But, it does open that Pandora box now, doesn't it, of like every other decision. It also puts a giant question mark over this tournament now. And President Trump, the last few things he said in the Oval Office this morning were basically, if Belgium had won without our player on the pitch, then I'd be saying this was rigged, just like the 2020 election. So he's already stitching that bit of doubt over the result of this game later on. He was also asked, well, what if the Belgian Prime Minister rings you? What are you going to say to him? He said, he hasn't phoned me yet, but, he's a great guy and I'll talk to him if he rings. But I just think that wasn't a red card and it wasn't a foul. Having said he didn't know what a red card was, as he played in the clip earlier, then going on to sort of say that he's the arbitrator of such matters.
And Dale, and one of the other things that Donald Trump said in that press conference was that he'd played golf with Harry Kane. And that was in the context of him saying, I didn't know who any of the England players were when they were up against Mexico on Sunday night. But I know Harry Kane because I played golf with him. Do we know how that might have come about?
We have no idea. That was a bolt from the blue. That was a bolt from the blue. You can only imagine maybe Harry Kane was up at the golf course up in Scotland or something like that, and ended up playing golf with Donald Trump. But that was a total bolt out of the blue when Donald Trump started talking about Mexico and England's victory last night.
And Caitríona, not to make you the golf issues correspondent, but Donald Trump plays a lot of golf in a lot of different formats, which could involve a lot of people being kind of around the edges.
That's it. He was playing golf even yesterday, although he was up, of course, very, very late on Saturday night with the July 4th celebrations that got very delayed. He plays golf frequently. He plays golf with some of the best golfers in the world, as well as other sports celebrities and, singers, actors, all kinds of things. And also some of his clubs are obviously big clubs, big membership. So it's quite possible that you could be there at the same time the president is and maybe encounter them that way. But we do have our very best assets here at the BBC on the case of finding out when that golf, that 2-ball, 4-ball, whatever it was with Harry Kane and President Trump took place.
Yeah, Dale, good luck going through the videos of every golf match that Donald Trump has ever played in public, trying to spot Harry Kane, although he'd be quite an easy person to spot.
I think we can guarantee that the first press conference that Harry Kane takes part in this tournament, he will be asked, where did you play golf with Donald Trump?
Yes, which then risks another diplomatic incident, but let's see. Now, Dale, I apologise for this bit because I'm going to go literally inside the beltway with Caitríona, because, Caitríona, I wanted to give you my review of the National State Fair.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was there too. So, give me your lowdown.
So just for newscasters, the reason I was off last week was I was visiting some friends in America and ended up going to Washington, D.C. And I thought, I may as well stay for a bit longer to see the 4th of July play out. And yeah, because the fireworks were so late, we kind of missed the fireworks. But I did go to this National State Fair, which is on the National Mall down by the Washington Monument. And it's based on like that classic American state fair, isn't it, Caitríona, where every state has one on a big showground where you go in and you see sort of the best of that state on display. But the idea of this is it's the best of every state on display, although it hasn't necessarily worked out quite like that.
Yeah, exactly. State fairs. I mean, we have them in Ireland. I think you have them in the UK as well. County fairs, where you have, here's the largest aubergine or pumpkin pie or whatever. And you go around eating fried food and trying to throw rings around sticks to win a huge teddy bear or whatever. And people would be in traditional costume and the traditional foods. And they're really gorgeous. I've been to many of these in the US, and you do get a real sense of what a place is about. And, us as journalists, you're always in a quest to find real people, aren't we? Beyond the experts. And so state fairs are a fabulous place to talk to people like that, especially ahead of elections. One of the most famous one would be the Iowa State Fair. And if you intend running for president, you really have to show your face at the Iowa State Fair for a couple of years, And so I went to the Iowa tent. I don't know if you went there, Adam, but all that was in the Iowa tent was a giant sort of pop-up cardboard display thing like you might find at a conference center. And that was really what was in most of the little huts. Some of them had slight interactive elements, but very limited, and none of the sort of traditional, very unhealthy but very delicious food to be found either.
Dale, I'm going to let you go because this is now just getting far too. This is like hearing about other people's holidays, which is the worst thing ever. So, but thank you very much for bringing us all the football
Mars
issues
bars,
today.
Anyone, yeah.
Thanks, Dale.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
And then, Caitríona, my final point I was going to make about the state fair is I think I spent longer in the queue to get in, the line to get in, than I did in the actual state fair. It opens with this America's Innovations tent, which is meant to be about all America's great technology. And there's not a lot in there. It was TikTok, X, NASA, SAP, the company that do our expenses, and Truth Social. Yeah. There was a Truth Social stall as the best of American technology.
Yeah, and another one of those pavilions had, a few motorbikes and stuff in it as well. It was really curious and really partisan as well. I mean, there was an area where you could park your buggies up if you wanted to, keep your buggy out of the way. And that was sponsored by Trump accounts. And you could get a free phone charger that was sponsored by Trump accounts. So everything was very sort of partisan rather than non-partisan, which is perhaps what people would have expected for something celebrating America and America's birthday.
Oh, and Caitríona, just a little bit of breaking football news just as we wrap up our conversation. This is from Chris Mason. He says, the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary were involved in arguing for the kick-off time for this morning's England match not to be moved earlier, as mooted by FIFA in the days before the game.
Ooh.
So Keir Starmer instructed officials to make the case, backed by the FA in the UK, that the match should remain in its original time slot. And the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, spoke to the British ambassador to Mexico to ask that British diplomats in the country made representations that there was no change to the kickoff time so that travelling England fans did not miss the match. So actually it sounds like there's been quite a lot of international diplomacy going on in the last few days around the World Cup.
Yeah, the worlds of sports and politics colliding. And then again, it was the weather in the end that had the impact on the kickoff time.
Caitríona, lovely to catch up and hopefully see you in person in Washington next time.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, but I will see you in person at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Of course, which is very soon. So, thanks for coming over for that too.
Okay, talk soon.
Now, we learned something about the tensions in the British royal family today, and it's about where Prince Harry, who normally lives in California, is going to stay when he visits the UK this week. And the person who's going to tell us all about that is the BBC's senior royal correspondent, Daniela Relph.
Hi, Adam.
And you're not stood outside a palace for
I'm
once.
not. I'm in the air-conditioned comfort of the Newscast studio.
Barely air-conditioned. Right. Talking about travel plans. So Prince Harry, he's doing some solo travel this time. He's not bringing his family here.
Yeah, that's right. He is due to start doing a series of public engagements tomorrow. He's spending a couple of days in London. He's then going to Birmingham and Warwickshire for 3 days to do charity-focused engagements based around the kind of projects that he continued to support even when he moved to California. The original plan was that Meghan, his wife, and their 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, would come too. That is now off the table. He's coming on his own to do those public engagements because of the row over whether he should have taxpayer-funded police protection. That hasn't been offered. He and his security team feel that it would not be safe to have Meghan and the kids in the London bit of the visit. They may come privately to the UK to be with him when he moves north to the Midlands, but they will not be in London in the next couple of days, we're told.
So the earlier reporting around this trip, when it was still being planned, it was some of the papers and some of the royal commentators were billing this as a big family reconciliation. Doesn't look like that now.
No, I mean, that is what it was supposed to be. I mean, the original planning notes and details we had about what would be happening had Harry and Meghan doing a number of engagements
I
together.
hadn't realised that.
I
thought it had never been confirmed what it was going to be.
So we get given these operational notes, which are effectively the logistics of each thing that Prince Harry was going to be doing. And on a couple of those, it was planned for Meghan to be alongside him. They were quite managed moments, so not particularly public facing. We're not talking about walkabouts through London or Birmingham. They were going to events related to charities, one of which was the countdown to the Invictus Games, where the year countdown to the Invictus Games, which Harry has been so involved in terms of setting up. So she was scheduled. She was on the list. We had all the notes, but that was then taken away and removed once there had been a firm decision saying that he wasn't going to get taxpayer-funded police protection.
Now, we've all had issues with our holiday accommodation at various times in our life, but Prince Harry had kind of massive version of that this morning on Monday.
Yeah, it was a real to and fro, he says, she says, for an hour or so first thing this morning. Initially, the first message came through from Prince Harry's official spokesperson, letting the media know that he would be coming to London and would be staying in royal accommodation at Buckingham Palace. Very clear, quite straightforward, presented as a fact, all sorted, nothing to see here, he'll be at the palace.
And that's a reliable spokesperson.
A reliable
it's not like a sort
spokesperson.
of friend of somebody
No,
or somebody
no,
who's...
we are talking about the person that deals with Prince Harry every day, is a person based in the UK, is reliable in terms of information about him and what their plans are. So a trusted source. Within literally minutes, Buckingham Palace were in touch to say, actually, that's not the case. Hang on here a minute. He is not staying with us. We had initially offered for him to stay at Buckingham Palace during the London part of his visit, but he was given a deadline. He did not come back to confirm that he would be able to stay with us in that deadline. There was then a little bit of to and fro over the weekend of him saying, yes, no, I don't need it. Actually, yes, I do. By which point Buckingham Palace said, well, we just can't accommodate this. You can't just have someone, in their view, staying in the palace. You need staff. There's some logistics around that. We haven't had enough time to put all of that into place. Therefore, he can't stay here.
There were lots of implications of that. And the first one I'm picking up on is when you said it was minutes that it took Buckingham Palace to respond, because actually my experience of the royal family as an institution dealing with the media is sometimes it can take weeks for them to respond to something, and they get in trouble for being so slow, or they're criticised in the public for being so slow. So to do something that responsive means that they really wanted to clear it up.
Yeah, and I think what happened was when we had the information from Prince Harry's official spokesperson, we all put it out on our, there were push alerts on the news apps. It was written up online, it was out on our rolling news channels and radio. And I think Buckingham Palace saw it and were like, hang on, this isn't right. This needs, you need to check with us because you're not getting reliable information. So for a period of time, we were in a situation where we had Prince Harry's official spokesperson saying one thing and Buckingham Palace saying completely the opposite. And it was very unclear, as it often can be, quite who was telling the truth or who had clarity on exactly what was planned.
Who was right, yeah.
Who was right or had, were there some bad communications going on here in terms of who knew what. So eventually, after a while, it became clear that actually Buckingham Palace were right, as you would expect, seeing they are the
keys,
palace.
And the codes
keys.
for the little lockbox.
Yeah, exactly. That Prince Harry would not be staying there because, as they said, he had not met the deadline for accepting the invitation.
I mean, it's hard to know the answer to this, but what do you think this reveals? Beyond just a bit of chaos.
I think it reveals how deep the fractures still are in terms of the relationship between Prince Harry and the royal family and just the levels of mistrust there still are on either side and how everybody slightly dances around each other. The level of direct conversations between teams, what Prince Harry is saying to his father or what the level of communication is there is really difficult to get a grip on because we've talked about it before in here. This isn't a normal family. This isn't, me messaging someone to say, can I pop over on Saturday afternoon for a cup of tea and a chat or putting an invitation out to somebody.
There's protocol.
There's protocol, there's layers, there's deadlines about accepting invitations. And the added aggravating factor here as well is that Tomorrow, Prince Harry, we will hear publicly the ruling around Prince Harry's legal action against Associated Newspapers. And I think there was a little bit of discomfort from Buckingham Palace that he could be staying in a royal palace while maybe giving a statement with his view on how that has played out.
And with all of us camped outside waiting for him.
And I just think that wasn't the only reason, but that's been an aggravating factor in all of this in terms of him staying at Buckingham Palace.
I'll get you to recap the court case in a second, but I suppose for me, observing this from outside, where I'm left is that it's kind of embarrassing for Harry, because it was made so clear by his team what his plans were, and then so quickly kiboshed by Buckingham Palace. That leaves him a bit embarrassed, I think, looking a bit embarrassed.
I think you could see it as being slightly embarrassing for both sides, because on one hand, exactly as you say, Prince Harry's team have said something on the record very firmly, this is where he's staying, this is where he's going to be, and have then had to row back in the face of the palace saying, hang on a minute, and say, oh, actually, no, we got that wrong. That's not quite how it's played out. They described it as the invitation being withdrawn and saying that they're very disappointed about that. Buckingham Palace say, well, they didn't accept it in the first place. It's not that it's withdrawn. And I think, talking to a few people around today, there are those that feel, sad for Prince Harry or feel it's a bit embarrassing for his team that they've had to get involved in a bit of a mess. Another side saying, well, can't Buckingham Palace just work out how much staff do they need? What sort of logistics are required to have one person
It's not a state banquet.
Yeah, staying in a palace probably just for the one night, really. So as ever, it's difficult to get to the bottom of. It's messy, it's complicated, and it plays in to that story that's been going on for more than 6 years now of real family friction, tension and rift.
And in terms of what Harry's itinerary is, was he ever going to see his brother?
Oh, no.
Right.
No,
okay.
that wasn't on the schedule at all. In fact, there was no official royal reunion or meeting on the schedule. I think there was a strong hope, particularly if he was here with Meghan and the children, that time would be made to see the King. We know that the King would like to see his grandchildren, who he hasn't seen in person in 4 years. And I think the idea that they would come here and not see the King is pretty unthinkable. That could still happen. I have to say that's not completely off the table. What is off the table is any kind of meeting with Prince William. The divide between the brothers is vast. There is no sense of William or Catherine wanting to get involved in Harry's adventures in the UK this week. There's no sign of that being any kind of thaw on that side at all.
You mentioned the court case. So this is Associated Newspapers, who are the parent group of the Daily Mail, and Harry and some other celebrities have been doing this long-running legal action against them, saying that they used unlawful methods to get information to publish stories about them. Just remind us where we've got to with that.
Yeah, well, that court case was complete several weeks ago, and we now know that tomorrow we are going to have the ruling handed down. It will just be a written ruling. It won't be a court hearing of any kind. When that moment happens, Prince Harry will be at Chatham House in central London doing a speech and chatting to people around the Invictus Foundation to do with his Invictus Games. We expect that he knows the ruling by now, and we are expecting to hear some kind of reaction from him, whichever way it goes, at some point tomorrow. So it's an important moment for him. It's has been this very personal journey on trying to expose what he believes were, poor media approaches to getting stories about him over the years. And it's been a really important part of his public facing work he's been on a mission around that. It's by chance that ruling has come down while he is here. We were thinking perhaps it would come last week, but actually it's happened while he is here in the UK. So that was not planned. That's just how the court timetable has fallen and when the ruling will come. But that will all be happening tomorrow.
And that huge, long-running legal action, does that just conclusively come to an end tomorrow?
I think
there are different scenarios.
Yes, there are different scenarios, different individuals with different backstories. So there may, in all of that, be potential to appeal. I think for Prince Harry, this is the big moment, though, in his own mind, that he's had his moment in court. He's laid bare how he felt things had played out. He gave evidence. A number of journalists who he felt were not using legal methods to get stories about him have had to give evidence. So it was a very big moment, a very important moment for him. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays tomorrow in terms of the ruling and how he then frames his response.
And of course, the irony is, as a journalist, when you go to Chatham House and there's an event there, you're not allowed to report what anyone says because of the famous Chatham House rules, which then apply in lots of other places that aren't even Chatham House. But yet, Prince Harry will be there responding, or maybe outside, just to maintain the Chatham House rules.
Yeah, maybe outside. Although he will be speaking inside, and we'll hear what he has to say more broadly about why he's in the UK this week.
And I should just say, Associated Newspapers Limited have strongly denied what they call preposterous allegations. So we shall see what the judge thinks in a few hours' time. Daniela, thank you.
Thanks, Adam.